My name is Jonathan Stone. I'm a businessman, owner of a successful law firm, and someone who works long hours. My job is my life. I'm used to the constant pressure, the deadlines, and the endless meetings. That's the price I pay for success. But I didn't mind. I thought it was all worth it. That September evening in New York was unusually foggy. I arrived home an hour earlier than usual, and the first thing I noticed as I stepped through the door was the familiar scent of dinner. Sarah always made something delicious for dinner, and it was one of the few traditions I truly appreciated. But tonight, oddly enough, the smell didn't bring me the usual sense of comfort. I walked into the living room, and my eyes immediately found Sarah. She was sitting on the couch, engrossed in a book, as if nothing had happened. But her face, still beautiful as ever, now looked tired, and her eyes were dull, like she hadn't even noticed my presence. An odd sense of unease rose within me. "Sarah," I said, trying to keep my composure, "you're still awake?" She looked up, a little surprised, as if she hadn't recognized me at first. There was something unfamiliar in her gaze, a coldness I hadn't seen before. "No, just a little tired," she answered, closing the book. "Did you stay at work again?" Her voice was dry, colder than usual. It hit me in a way I wasn't expecting. Even though she had no idea, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She wasn't just tired, she was distant. I silently walked into the bedroom, my eyes falling on her phone lying on the nightstand. I wasn't the type to check her things, but something in the air pushed me to take a closer look. "Jonathan?" I heard her voice from the doorway. "Did you forget something?" I quickly placed the phone back, not having had time to check the messages. But my intuition didn't fail me. I was certain something was wrong.
The next day, during my lunch break, I decided to work from home. I knew this might be my chance. Sarah hadn't noticed me peeking at her phone the day before, and now I was ready to continue. I connected her phone to my computer and started going through her messages. It wasn't as hard as I expected. The recovery programs for messages and photos had been installed long ago, when my colleagues joked about my professionalism in retrieving information. I knew something wasn't right in Sarah's life, and now I was about to see the truth. And there it was. I found a conversation with someone named Adam. They were texting each other things I could hardly imagine. In one of the last messages, Adam wrote, "You're amazing. I can't wait to be with you again. Tomorrow at 8?" Everything inside me froze. I couldn't believe this was happening to me and the woman I once loved with all my heart. Sarah had been unfaithful. This wasn't a mistake. This was a premeditated betrayal. I knew there wouldn't be tears or shouting. I wouldn't beg her to come back. I was resolute. Revenge couldn't be swift. It had to be carefully planned. Sarah needed to feel what she had lost. I immediately hired a private investigator.
Robert Fisk, an old college friend who knew how to follow people without leaving traces. Robert was a master of his craft, and he quickly found out that Sarah and Adam were meeting at the same hotel. This was their spot, where she had apparently been going for prearranged rendezvous. I sat in my office when Robert sent me the photos from the hotel. One of them showed Sarah standing on the balcony with Adam, their lips so close that I could see how they nearly touched. That moment hit me like a punch in the gut. I couldn't believe how openly her affair had been. All this time, her coldness had been a mask. She hadn't even tried to hide her guilt. She was sure I wouldn't notice. She was wrong. The next few days, I kept my composure. I went on with work, but in my soul, a storm was brewing. I began to act. I prepared the divorce papers, gathered all the evidence, and was ready for the difficult moments ahead. But my plan wasn't just to destroy her life. I wanted her to feel the same pain I had felt. I decided it was time to tell Sarah the truth. I invited her to dinner at our favorite restaurant, the place where we had once celebrated important moments. She was surprised, but didn't suspect that tonight would be the last time we dined together. I sat across from her, studying her face carefully. Sarah, as always, tried to keep her composure, but her fingers nervously traced the rim of her glass. "You look like you're hiding something," I said, letting out a tired sigh. My voice was calm, but it carried a hint of detachment. "You've been pulling away from me more and more, Sarah. What's going on?" She tried to smile, but it was strained. "Nothing, I'm just tired," she answered, but her eyes avoided mine. I didn't stay silent. I knew there was no chance for her to lie, not with everything I had discovered. "I know about you and Adam," I said, keeping my emotions in check. I saw her face go pale, her expression turning to panic. You can't... How did you know?" "It doesn't matter," I said, calmly watching her panic. "I know everything now, and you'll have to understand that betrayal comes with consequences." She quickly reached for her bag, but I was faster. I slid a USB flash drive onto the table. "Everything you need to know is there. The texts, the photos, all your secret meetings with Adam. You've lost it all. You'll no longer be the woman I once knew."
Sarah couldn't believe this was happening. She tried to justify herself, said she loved me, that she had made a mistake, but I was relentless. I filed for divorce, and soon her life started falling apart. "You took everything from me," she said, sitting in the empty apartment, her eyes red from crying. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" I didn't answer. I simply walked out of the apartment, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I wasn't happy, but I was right. The revenge was complete. Now Sarah was left alone, in the emptiness she had created for herself. Months passed. I rebuilt my life, started a new chapter. I focused on my work again, but now my heart was cold. Sarah tried to rebuild hers, but her efforts were in vain. Adam disappeared, her career crumbled, and she was left alone. For me, this wasn't a victory. It was the price I paid for my trust. But now I knew that revenge wasn't always about destruction. Sometimes it was about taking what was rightfully yours.